well, that was a bad time to take a week off. Yeah, I had to, I was watching Flies last week, so I had to take time off to dedicate to that I would normally use for, putting these vlogs together. I have been watching, an hour plus of Toku just to record this down to, a 30 to 40 minute video for a while now. Fortunately, Garo Gold Storm has just concluded, so it'll be back to just Sentai and Kamen Rider, which should hopefully make these videos shorter, less of a commitment. No, I am still not watching Ultraman X. I'm pretty far behind at this point in the show, and busy to finish out the year. Yes, I'm trying to get to that. But I have completed 5, so we're at least through November. Spoilers, like I said in the end of the Dragonite reviews, I do like Fives despite its issues, and oh my, they have issues. Some other cleanup stuff before I get to recapping. Stop bugging me about Superhero Tyson Grand Prix. You have no idea how many messages I've gotten about, watch Superhero Tyson Grand Prix. It's awful. It's awesome. It's the best of the Tyson movies. It's the worst of the Tyson movies. That's the only one I reject that outright, because I hope all of my regular viewers at least have seen my review of Kamen Rider Tyson at this point. No, I haven't watched it yet. I am too busy. I've been working double shifts at work for the last 2 months, and by work I mean my actual day job that I got last year, and I'm really dedicated to keeping over doing this show. Despite, all the content Point is, I like doing what I'm doing with the videos. I want to keep doing the videos. But it doesn't bring in as much money as I want it to, so yeah. I gotta dedicate time to other places when I need to, so plus I want fanfare to die down on it before I address it, because I definitely jumped onto Kamen Rider Tyson way too soon out of sheer blinding anger. So, to sum it up, as I've gotten kind of rambling on this one, I didn't mean to. Grand Prix, end of the year or not at all. Please stop asking. I've said this on Twitter. Follow my Twitter. It's twitter.com/Shinta. twitter.com/_Shinta. I put it at the end of all of my videos. Well, admittedly, a lot of them I put my blog address, but the blog address has a link to my Twitter. And everything about the show goes up there. Well, I don't consistently post the something. I'm losing my train of thought. It's been a long day. Back on topic. Last week's 3 episodes. Just a short recap. Ninninger, revelation about the Gasaki. I'm forgetting his name. Takaharu and Fuga's father was actually had his ninja abilities stolen. That was kind of an interesting B plot. The A plot about the board game of despair, that was stupid. Yes, even if it was used as a symbolic way for what's his name to regain knowledge of his lost memories and abilities that Kyoimon stole to give him his own power. And we have confirmed that it's a guy at this point. Drive 46. Yes, I saw Chaser Mark. Yes, I liked Chaser Mark. I looked up the numbers, and while there's an oddity with Suika arms, Chaser Mark is the physically strongest and fastest, and yeah, in those 2 stats, he outclasses everything as far back as, the closest we get to matching up again is, Kiva Emperor form. The sole exception there being Suika arms, and I think that statting's been changed since I last saw it, but yeah, that's the only significant outlier, because it's, in the high 20 tons for punching and kicking force, and that was a pretty strong impact. There are problems with the suit, obviously, that they couldn't do a full, consistent color scheme. Only the Chaser bodysuit, undersuit, with the mock torso gear over top of it, and Chaser's gloves, which, it works with how they utilize the transformation sequence with all of the Chaser parks overlaying themselves onto mock, so it's like a amalgamation, and there's an interesting thing somebody realized, that there's a relation with the special super forms. Dead Heat is the amalgamation of Drive and Mock's powers. Cho Dead Heat, the Trideron key, is an amalgamation of Drive and Mashi and Chaser's powers, and using the Chaser ship signal bike allows Mock to similarly fuse with Chaser. So I like that, not dichotomy, but symbolism that that each of the oddly special super forms, that each of them can, well, not each of them, only Chaser's a bit left out of this, but he amalgamates with the other two riders for this. So it's an expression of camaraderie, I should be saying. So yeah, Go took a level in Badass to take down Gold Drive, while Drive and Hard were taken on Sigma. Goldstorm 24. Well, clearly Tsukasa was not intimidated. He wanted to one-up Kaito for stealing the big machine in Superhero Tyson, the first one. Because, yeah, then Rodham transformed itself into a Eldritch Abomination Megazord. That I found really, really funny, considering the whole in-jokes with Masahiro Inoue that have been happening all throughout Goldstorm. Otherwise, yeah, they still had difficulty dealing with Rodham. Back to this actual week. Ninninger 30. Takaharu comes across an old acquaintance that happens to be a girl, and they're attracted to each other, obviously, because this is how these plots kind of go. And the woman, Kikyo, has, in accordance with another ninja, started to set up a ninja school for prospective ninja in the modern age. The series revolves around the children of the last ninja, meaning that their school is the last school of ninja out there, in part because he was given that title because, ninjutsu and all that specialized espionage stuff was dying out. That was kind of how the series started. Excuse me if I'm wrong on that. So, it's kind of defeatist. It's kind of, not defeatist, it's kind of contradictory to have a ninja with that title and then still filling the world with ninja. I mean, I get the Kakuranger and, in a sense, the Hurricaneger, because the Kakuranger weren't exactly, they were descended from great ninja, yes, but most of them were not trained in any type of ninjutsu abilities. I'm not exactly sure about Hurricaneger because I think only their movie The 10 Years After was subtitled, and aside from their appearance in Gokaiger, I know nothing about Hurricaneger. But yeah, it's another thing that's bugged me. And then we get, there's plenty of ninja, of real-life ninja. They're starting a ninja school. Maybe they're just not as plentiful as before, because it's still a silly title to have when there are plenty of ninja around. Anyways, Takaharu has his ass kicked by the girl in the opening segment because, well, Takaharu's an idiot. And he pretty much admits it. Meaning, this is yet another side character that is better at being a lead character than Takaharu himself would be. Go figure. They check out the ninja school, and, well, the others think it's a Kiba Oni plot, because Kyoamon's been making her own ninja as of late, and setting them off as ninja things, and yeah, this is probably the first one of these plans that isn't stupid in some way. Actually, I take that back. I actually don't get the point at all of this plot, because they were training a bunch of kids to become Kiba Oni Ninja? Why? I mean, you can create your own freaking army. So why would you need to have untrained kids as part of it when one of your own personal foot soldiers just possessed a advanced level ninja to gain all of his abilities, this being the partner Kikyo has in the ninja school. So this is just the question I keep asking with this show. Why? This is no progress for the Kiba-Oni's goal of gathering despair and fear to revive Kiba-Oni Gengetsu, and nor does it really seem to be a way to eliminate the Igasaki as their one true opponents. Admittedly, they do attempt to do that, as in have the possessed guy kill Takaharu and get Kikyo to help on it through deception, showing them as actual ninja. But again, this is a situation that fell into their lap. That was not the original plan. It's only when Takaharu tries to warn Kikyo of this nefarious plan does it fall apart, because instead of, faking being hurt when Takaharu bull rushes the possessed guy and charges him, he instead tries to get Kikyo to hold him down so he can kill him, and of course that prompts Kikyo to not listen and free Takaharu and lose the chance, when instead the smart thing would have been to breed distrust and make her think that Takaharu is the freaking bad guy by, actually injuring the host body and attacking him. Thus, it's an actual legitimate trained ninja that are enticed to enter the Kiba-Oni's forces and thinking that they're just the misunderstood side in all this and, pull off a legitimate deception. If it was all a plot to get Kikyo on their side for a dark ninja part of the story, then that would have worked a hell of a lot better than trying to get a bunch of kids involved in this as their elite soldiers. Because kids do not make for elite soldiers. The best thing you can do by mind controlling them is leave it as a dilemma for the protagonists in trying to rescue these kids from themselves. And, that was something that happened pretty often in the Showa era, and usually it was through some type of device that the protagonist team or persons had to disable. I remember one of these in Black RX that was kind of weird because it used, what was it? Some type of ray gun at the time. Because, one of those laser tag places, they adapted one of the suits, one of the gears they have for that for the episode, and it was kind of weird, but still kind of entertaining with how it was presented. See, that's the thing. You usually don't get this kind of fridge logic for something that's getting entertaining. You usually go with it, but when it's not doing it properly, then you start thinking about it, and you realize how stupid it is. And that's been Ninninger for me, continuously. Yeah, it's pretty much Ninninger this week. Drive 47. Shinosuke and Heart defeat the Sigma Circular, which is trying to... I had ridiculous timing with my Dot Hack Link reviews about the whole real digitized thing, when that's Bano's plan. That's the whole digitize humanity, turn them into obedient Roidmudes, or make them unable of having physical bodies unless they give them to them. And as Hart says in the episode, that was foolish, because making humans more like Roidmudes is the exact opposite thing the Roidmudes were doing. They were only using human emotion to evolve to understand humanity and use it as a stepping stone to surpass them. Granted, their numbers kept getting whittled down, and they seemed to be doing heinous acts, but as Shinosuke says after the battle concludes and they destroy Sigma with probably the strongest attacks out of either of them in the series, Shinosuke notes that with how Bano screwed with their programming to make them malevolent, that they were in a way burdened with all of the sins of humanity despite being newly created entities. And he realizes from this that had they been able to understand that earlier, had them have more interactions like with Q in one of the early episodes I really liked, then they could have come to a point of coexistence. And he tries to offer Heart that, but can't, because Heart wants to have one last battle before he dies, because his Roidmude core was damaged in the battle, and the entire time he saves Sanosuke from a fall. He engages him in banter about him being the last, and then has a fight with him to just let all of that out of that emotion, so they could legitimately have if things had been different, we could have been friends thing, and actually form a bond of friendship before Heart's core dissolves. And honestly, Heart's been grown a lot through the series, through his showcase interactions, so yeah, I'll give him that. There's a line here in the overtime translation that have been giving people conniption fits about Heart being the only Roidmude to become human, and that's what people, of course, have an issue with is, of course, Chase, since Chase just died, and he seemed more of an empathetic character, but the key thing for that for me was that Chase always had trouble expressing and understanding emotions and other people, which Heart didn't have. Heart understood people, but tried to bring out the best in others through compassion and understanding. Heart essentially became, in a way, the best of humanity reflected back on itself, and, trying to express the best of humanity to his brethren to make them better. And that did happen with Brain and Heart with their related devotion, not so much the rest of them. So, yeah, I'll probably agree with the show and say Heart was the closest to human, but Chase was probably the more relatable, and he wasn't quite human, but we wished he could have had the chance to continue to become one. I should say. He certainly was human enough in a lot of respects. I'm probably mangling my phrases, but you know me by now and the live stuff. So the series wraps up from there. I should note that right after the battle, Shinosuke falls off the building, and when Heart saves him, he has a near-death experience where he's in a forest that's presumably a limbo dimension between the living and dead space, and we get a preview thing of Kamen Rider Ghost. Now, Ghost has already cameoed in Surprise Future, meaning, assuming that Surprise Future's events were set about, I want to say, a week or two before this, then that's where the cross-series overlap happens for Ghost Show, which hopefully we'll be seeing the beginning of his efforts technically next week in the last episode of Drive, because they have a bonus episode to complement how the series started with the episode 0 plot with Neo Shade, and it's a culmination of how Shinosuke has grown over the last year with One Last Case, whereas the main story is concluded here with the team breaking up. And that breakup begins with Krim sealing all the shift cars and signal bikes and their equipment, aside from Signal Chaser, which Go doesn't hand over, into a area below the drive pit, so that all of the technology that utilizes core drive ear abilities is locked away until it can be properly used and not abused by humanity the easy way of explaining Krim's deceitfulness and secret keeping is he did not trust people after Bono betrayed him and got him killed over the whole Roidmude revolution. So in that context, a lot of what he's done previously about the secret keeping makes sense in context, and as does all the related trust issues that are showcased throughout the series. So while he trusts and values the Special Police Division and everyone involved there, he cannot trust humanity right now with his innovations, especially since, his core drive ear technology can be used to freaking stop time. Well, not exactly stop time, as showcased in the show repeatedly, time doesn't actually stop, it's just a heavy pressure effect that appears to stop or hinder movement, which doesn't really involve time at all, because we know people are still thinking, we know they still have autonomic functions happen, they're just hindered from movement. Speaking of which, that's another thing that's not really addressed. What would the effect of extended exposure to super heavy acceleration leave on someone? Would it, kill them from asphyxiation? It's never used long enough, and people are not in the area of effect long enough for it to really come up in the show. But that's kind of chilling in hindsight. Yeah, where was I? So yeah, Krim seals away the core drive ear tech and says goodbye to everyone in the event they're needed. I expect him back in 3 months. They're already shooting Drive versus Gaim. Not Drive versus Gaim. Drive versus Ghost, meaning they have to get the tech back at some point, so Krim is going to have to unlock himself for something. Where was I going with this? And yeah, the rest of it's pretty much just an epilogue and giving everyone their farewell shoutouts with Go encountering Professor Harley Hendrickson on the road and them setting off for adventure. And so Go can try and find a way to restore Chase's core now that he has accepted that he's his friend. One of the big moments of awesome from episode 46 the week before. How do you restore a Roidmude core that's already been destroyed? And they were programs. The cores were physical expressions of programs, and I don't think it was downloaded into the Signal Chaser bike. There's an illusion that it has been from the last battle, where behind Chaser Mach, a manifestation of Commoner Chaser appears as he's rider kicking Gold Drive that helps finish him off, but I don't think his program would have been copied into the Signal Chaser. It's actually a problem with trying to resurrect the Roidmudes. They're sentient entities, sure, but they were all programming, and once the programming is gone, you can't exactly recreate someone, and they didn't have backups, so it's not a comparable thing to Eiji Hino traveling the world to fix Ankh's broken core metal, because everything that was Ankh was still in there. It was just snapped, so could not achieve the right kind of power to manifest his sentience from it anymore. Whereas, these are technological program. I went over the technological program thing. I hate repeating myself. So I don't see how Go's going to achieve that. But yeah, rest of them go their separate ways. Rina goes on to become a physicist. Q writes a tell-all book about the special crime unit's adventures and the relations with the Roidmudes to help in preserving them. The captain gets promoted. Oda gets promoted, and Shinosuke and Kiriko get together, or at least are implied to. And as a final shemp for that whole stuff, they finally find the guy who Chase copied to get his human form, and he copied a no-nonsense, serious traffic officer. I was laughing, legitimately, because the guy legitimately acted like Chaser, only he was a bit more emotive. Yeah, that's what I want to say. He even acted a bit like Go, which kind of parallels their whole interaction. I don't know, maybe they'll resurrect Chase through having this guy he copied become the next Kamen Rider Chaser or something. But yeah, that was Drive, and Drive as a series starts kind of badly. There are some good episodes scattered in the first 20, but it's a slog to get through to the good stuff. Like I've been saying the last few weeks, the story arc with Roidmude 001 is where the show gets good, and it kind of keeps that increased pace by then having the Nira arc and the Bono arc that fleshes out all this stuff that comes before, so it becomes richer now. I'm going to be comparing this to Fies when I get to those reviews, but essentially Fies has the opposite problem. In its early episodes where it's hindering the show, those are more character-based problematic versus story-based problematic. Drive was had story problems hindering it, but the characterization needed fleshing out faster. Whereas, yeah, Fies is... I'll explain bits in there, but I saw it as interest in parallel, considering the cycles these kind of shows operate under. The gear was more toyetic than previous years. Not a lot of it was integrated very well. The suits were meh, honestly. The original Drive suit grew on me. Dead Heat grew on me. Mach and Chaser I liked for the most part, but it wasn't the best year for the costume department. Effects and editing varied wildly. I rated it ultimately about little above average for the series, but probably worth a watch for for varying levels of things. Chaser, the implications of some of the bad guys, held that the moment the bad guys almost won a couple of times, and probably surprised Future considering what I've heard about it, and it seemed like a competent use of the time travel story device for once from Toei in a move that doesn't involve Yasuko Kobayashi. Seriously, I think she's like the only person regularly at Toei that seems to do time travel plots competently, and I'm excited to see someone else that can pull that off. Not quite a recommendation, but if you're interested, watch it. Goldstorm! This is continuing a trend with the Garo series in that their last episode is pretty lackluster considering everything else that's happened on the show. As it's the final battle with Megazord Radam and Jinga. Why does everything keep spelling it with a Z? Listen to the pronunciation. It's a J sound. And yeah, it's just one big battle with Jinga and Ryuga locked in combat. Rian trying to stop Amelie and Gold and I'm forgetting her name being helped by Daigo to set off a trap that should hopefully hinder Laden's movement, but it doesn't, and it starts collecting the souls of everybody on the planet for it to feed horrors. I don't know what it's going to do I don't remember what it was going to do with it. But, Rian beats Amelie, then gets turned into the second moon that's powering Radam throughout all of this by Jingo, which angers Ryuga, and everything seems lost, and then Rian blows herself up with a talisman because then Radon will be weaker. I mean, it's not exactly the only thing powering Radon, because Radon was moving after the second moon was cut, so I don't see that being very consistent. But for some reason, they pulled the Deus Ex Machina harder than normal by all of the power of living beings consolidating into Ryuga as he cries out in sorrow at Rian sacrificing herself, and then they all form into giant soul light Garo. What? I mean, this isn't in any way foreshadowed. At least with the Lost Soul Beast Garo, mastering the Soul Beast the armor turns into last year with Mikai no Hana makes sense, because they'd been stressing all year the thing with Raiga being a gentle, kind soul and having retained that kindness well into his years as a Mikai Knight, so overcoming this deepest of, well, almost turning yourself into a horror by losing yourself as his beast makes sense as a temporary power-up. Here Ryuga's used the same Shout Darkness Garo power-up 3 times in a row, despite the power-ups being temporary, and then you get the soul thing, which doesn't... I don't get it. And Garo has a problem with its endings for the series not holding up to everything that's come off of them, but wow, this was... I don't want to say anticlimactic, because they've been in the battle over Radon for most of the show, so there was at least... Actually, that kind of makes it worse in hindsight, because this is how this battle against this entity that they've been trying so hard to defeat ends, with one punch! One punch! Literally, they blow up Radon with one punch from the soul form Garo, and not even with like a blade. It just resists this stuff Radon is carrying, turning into a scythe that's made up of all the horrors it's called into the world due to its awakening, and the scythe breaks, and he punches it once, and the Radon goes down and returns to its sealing form for Gold to seal it again. And he seals it. It sinks into the ground, and then is somehow sent back to the Mikai, where the Mikai realm where all horrors are born, and then the sword sealing Radon breaks, and I guess that means he's sealed or destroyed for good. I mean, it's a horror. The reason you seal horrors was because they come back, and Radon sealing was done so that it couldn't ride the cycle of reincarnation most horrors do to reemerge. It was sealed separately in a way that was meant to not be easily recoverable. And then this series shows it at the end, sealed and sinking into the horror realm, and the sword literally shattering. So, what? What did it mean that this was not exactly a horror? Actually, it was actual horror. Was just a horror construct that they didn't have the ability then to destroy, or maybe Radon was so weakened after all of this time that even it couldn't ride the cycle again? I don't know, it's weird. Jenga appears for one last exchange, and it's one Ryuga wins, but as it's noted, this is preceded by Rian appearing to die. She's not dead, of course, she just had her soul sucked out of her during the gathering of it by Radon, and they're happy, and then we really don't get a meaningful epilogue or conclusion past that of everybody moving on. It's just, as the credits roll, them like going back to what they normally do, which I guess works, but I expected a bit more lip service to it. Unless, of course, they're going to wrap this up with the movie down the line, or continuing the story with them down the line, because that's kind of the things with Garo, the war never ends. But, like I say with stuff of Toshiki Inoue, before you move on to the next story, you should, give it a good conclusion point. A natural place where even if you want more, you feel content with how the series ends from there. And I didn't really get that from this. Though, admittedly, the last part of the scene is a soul coming to rest in Rian's hands and clasped by Ryuga, so is that supposed to mean be a symbolic expression of them forming a relationship while still being an active Makai Knight and priest, like was alluded to when Rian was possessed by Jinga? This ending annoys me, and I don't fully know why. Ultimately, though, the last few episodes kind of not just, well, I guess half of the show, overstressing a lot of. It's kind of Goldstorm has the opposite problem of normal Garo series. It focuses too much on the story arc and really doesn't give much filler to it in any meaningful way. It's just story point, story point, story point, story point, story point, and some of them could have admittedly been condensed down to give a few more filler episodes that would focus on characterization or fleshing out this aspect of the universe. Because this has to be easily the weakest Garo series with respect to characterization. It's not a bad series, but I'm looking back on it and seeing I know very little about any of these people past their role in the story. And yeah, we got stuff with Gold about his village that ended up tying into Jinga and them, but it's like there's nothing really with him past that. And at least with crap, I'm blanking on him because I haven't watched him in a while. Like, we got more. We saw there was more there with Ray. We saw there was more with Crow, and I've not watched Makai Senki or Yami or Tarasamono, so I can't talk about them. But, we saw aspects of their character that really didn't get as much chance to shine here because they weren't put in situations that would allow them to show their character or ability past fighting Amelie and Jinga over and over and over again. So, like most of the Garo series, it's not bad, it just ends up having bad elements that detract from the good elements about it. Yeah. Honestly, so far of everything I've seen, the worst entry in the Garo franchise that I've seen is Kiba Gaiden, and I'll be reviewing that in October. I'm not going to be doing Gurren no Suki, the next Garo anime that's coming, but I am trying to see who's getting it subtitled, if Funimation's doing something with it, because I kind of want to see that story, because it's supposed to be how the Garo armor came to Japan originally, after it was going rogue across the world, I guess. No, wait, it was a part of the royal family of these people in the Carved Steel Flame, and I really didn't care to keep watching the Carved Steel Flame, so I kind of cared less. But yeah, these recaps will just be down to Sentai and Kamen Rider. Like I said, I still don't have interest in watching Ultraman, and there's nothing else on the current Toku listings I'm aware of for, well, okay, Power Rangers Dino Charge, but that's inconsistent release. I know it's back for the moment, but I want to keep this centered on the Japanese material. I can watch the stuff that's in English at my leisure. Yes. So, I will be back next week for more Ninninger and our first proper looks at Kamen Rider Ghost. See you then.